Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today. I want to talk about what I think is going to happen this fall involving the football season. Before I continue, a few things. One, hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. I'm really trying to grow this YouTube channel. Two, this video is not directed at Gavin Newsom. I know the title says his name in it. It's just his state has been the most vocal about what they're gonna do. And then number three, this is not I wouldn't consider this a sport video, but it might come across as a bit of a political video. It's not a political video. And number four, some of this is going to be facts, some of this is going to be public perception, and some of it's going to be that you guys don't get offended or anything, because some of it is, I'm just going to tell you the cold hard truth about this whole situation. Um, and I wanted to kick off by basically saying I do think football season will happen. I do think we will have the NFL full 16 games start normal time. I think we will have the full 12 game season with the bowl games and playoffs and everything in college football, but that will start 30 days or the first Saturday in October. That it will not start until then. It will be pushed back probably 30 days. And the reason why I think this is because I just don't think some of these universities are going to feel comfortable letting students on campus in late July, early August, depending on which state they live in. Another thing, crowds and the fans. Some states I think will have 100% crowd. It will be 100% full capacity in the stadiums. And I'm not gonna make any predictions in which states that's gonna be, but primarily the South. I think the South will have primary 100% fans in those stadiums. I think some stadiums will have 50%, some will have 75%, and some will have no fans. I know, and it could change. It could really well change. Beginning of the season, 50%, end of the season, 100%. Let's say University of Maryland, their governor just came out with something today. I live in Maryland, so their governor came out with the phase one today. Phase one starting on the 15th, in May. Basically, um, you could be in stores 50% capacity. So, which that means is if let's say your local, I don't know, your local Walmart holds 500 people in it. You got 250 people in that Walmart at all times, basically. Now, granted, it's not on like a large scale like the University of Maryland football stadium and both the Ravens and Redskins stadium. That's I think going to be more of a phase two thing, but overall, I mean, I do think you're going to see some of these states have 100% fans in the stadiums, primarily in the South. Maybe not so much in some states. I know right now, I think Major League Baseball, they said they're going to go 82 game season. I am going to do a separate video on Major League Baseball on how to fix Major League Baseball in the near future. Stay tuned for that. But um, it involves shortening the season. I am interested to see how this goes to Major League Baseball. So 82 games. I think they're only going to play in three states. Those states being Arizona, who announced this Saturday that they're going to be open for sports. Texas, which I think is going to announce very soon that they're going to be open for sports. And Florida, who the governor came out today, Ron DeSantis, and basically said, please come to Florida to play professional sports, which is going to be a big money profit thing for Florida, because I think Florida is going to be one of those states, and when the fall comes around, with some of these sports teams that might not be allowed to play in those states, that might not be allowed to play in what the hell is happening? Something weird just popped up. But anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, some of these states that might not allow the sports teams to play, like California, they might be playing their home games in Florida. And Florida has plenty of the stadiums. I know NFL came out today saying that basically looking at some places in West Virginia to hold camps because West Virginia has one of the lowest cases. Um, and that might happen, but West Virginia doesn't have the fields. So Florida is a possibility. I think a lot of stadiums in the South are going to be used for some NFL teams' home games from probably teams in the West Coast or possibly your New York teams and maybe your Patriots. But overall, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It will not be a normal season, but I do think NFL will start on time, play the full 16 games postseason Super Bowl, and with possible crowds in the stadiums. And I think that college football will start 30 days late with a full season as well. Now, so I want to get into some of the news with Oregon. Their governor, I believe her name is Kate Brown, if I'm not mistaken. No fans in the stands through September. Um, Personally, I mean, here's the issue with that. And at first, I was pissed, but then I was like, well, I'm the one saying that they're not going to start college football. They're going to delay by 30 days because of the fact that I don't think these campuses want the students on campus early for camp, and they're going to give them 4 to 6 weeks to practice. I don't know what that number is going to be. I think it's going to be 6 weeks, but we'll see. Um, and I don't think spring football is going to happen either. You could scratch spring football. That's not going to happen. I think what's going to happen, though, is that that game will be played, but in Columbus. I do think you're going to see some of these West Coast states, California, Oregon, and Washington. I think they're going to be very hesitant. I really do. Um, and and this is just public. This is just some facts right here. It seems like as I said at the beginning, this is not a political video. Republican governors seem to be more lenient, not as I would say strict with their rules involving the social distancing and all that as Democrat governors. All three of those states are Democrat governors. California, they came out saying those schools will be online in the fall. Here's the issue with that. Does California want their universities to go underwater? Because let me tell you something. The Pac-12 is scrambling right now. There's already talks about that USC Alabama game getting canceled, and it's going to be Alabama TCU because there is so much uncertainty in the state of California right now, and really that whole West Coast. I'm telling you this right now, it's going to come down to. I think public perception is going to go ahead and put pressure on these lawmakers and governors, and I think they're going to be sit down. And I think what's going to happen is, basically, they're going to be told, "Do you want your universities to go under?" Because I think, looking at those three states, I'll tell you this right now: any Group of Five school in any of those three states, or Division II football team, Division III football team, lower D1 school will go underwater. Football brings a lot of money to schools, and it will. And I'm just speaking straight facts here. It will go underwater. The money, or not the money, the schools. The schools will go underwater, and they will have a really tough time recovering. I don't think USC, I don't think UCLA, I don't think Stanford and the state of California will go under. if they are unable to play football this season because I think they're two brand. I think USC and UCLA has a lot of money around them. And I think Stanford, they have enough big time donors that could bail them out. Any other school, Oregon State will go under. Washington State will definitely go under. Um, Washington, Oregon, those are a bit of a toss-ups. I do think Washington probably might have some money. Same thing with Oregon, but at the end of the day, they're going to sit down these three governors, and I think what's going to happen is they're going to ask them, do you want your universities to go under? And if they say yes, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen if they say yes, but I think they would say no. And basically, I forget, Jay Inslee, that's the guy's name in Washington State. Gavin Newsom, Kate Brown, they're going to be sit down and they're going to be told, do you want your universities to go under? Because they will lose a lot of money because of not playing football. Professional teams, I'm not concerned about the NBA because I think the NBA is only going to be playing in Florida if they come back, and I do not think the NBA is coming back because I know there's talks about them saying that they want to. I mean, here's the issue, and this is going to be an issue for a lot of sports. Maybe not so much Major League Baseball, maybe not so much NFL, college football probably, NBA probably. They're going to listen to officials, and what I mean by that, Fauci, Dr. Fauci, primarily. Here's the issue about Dr. Fauci, and this is my opinion. And this is what I think. And then there's public perception as well. I'll start with the public perception. I don't think the public wants their hands in one person. I just don't think that. I think they want maybe a group or response team that would come up with a reasonable decision. Here's the second issue of Dr. Fauci. He says one thing and then he says a different thing. For example, he said we should not shake hands with people ever again. So, like, if you're in a business deal and you make a huge business deal, you don't shake the person's hand. But he also said in the same podcast or whatever, I think it was a Snapchat or something, that it's okay to find random people on Tinder to have sex with. You see the problem there? So, I mean, I'm not going to go into that, but, like, you should get my point. Shaking someone's hand is much more cleaner. It's much more sanitary than having sex with somebody. And Dr. Fauci said that the more unsanitary thing is better than the sanitary thing. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't listen to Dr. Fauci. I really don't listen to anybody, but I don't listen to Dr. Fauci. I just think he's all over the place. He said schools should not go back without testing and all that. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm sure some people will agree with me with this. I do think that some of these states that are reopening don't have the testing, and basically they're doing fine. So, I mean, Dr. Fauci, in my opinion, has this much of a say, in my opinion, at like a table about this. I know he's like the disease doctor, or whatever. The guy is all over the place. I mean, it's just I wouldn't go by his advice if I was a university president. But they're going to be listening to him, and I think some of these people are going to panic by what he says, even though he's all over the place. Because one moment he says, "Oh, this is fine," but then the next moment, like he'll say, "Oh, this isn't fine." So I mean, he's just all over the place, in my opinion. It's nothing against Dr. Fauci. Seems like a nice guy, but I just think he's all over the place. Here's the issue, though. These are some of these other states outside of 3 West Coast states. I think will have issues. Possibly with their state officials. I know the president said he's going to leg to the state officials. I hope someone steps in and tells some of these states officials, not all of them, not all of them, and I put a few of them down. Um, One I put down, Illinois. That's going to be a problem for Northwestern, Northern Illinois, University of Illinois, and the Chicago Bears. That's going to be an issue right there. That governor seems to be very reluctant to lift these restrictions, and I do think that's going to be a problem in the state of Illinois. Now, I'm hoping all 50 states could play at their home stadiums, at least without fans. But I don't have a good feeling about Illinois. It's just not really that good. Michigan. That governor's all over the place. One moment she says you can do this, next moment she says you can't do this. Very unpredictable. That's the state you gotta watch for: Michigan, Michigan State, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, and the Detroit Lions. I do not think I'll make a prediction right now. She will have to be sit down like the three governors on the West Coast, because she's just too unpredictable. I mean, and that's just public perception right there. She's just way too unpredictable about this. So I mean, say what you want, but she's just way too unpredictable. Massachusetts is one that I don't think might go as planned, primarily because their cases are still really high. Same thing with New York, even though I will say this about New York, I do think the Bills, Syracuse, and Buffalo, I do think those three sports football teams in the fall will be playing at the home stadiums, because I don't think the coronavirus is as bad in upstate New York as it is in New York City. New Jersey, same thing. The cases are just way too bad. I did put my own governor, Larry Hogan, on this list, but today I wasn't sure that football games will be played in Maryland this fall with the Skins, the Ravens, Maryland Terps, and the Navy Midshipmen. I am confident that and schools will go back in the fall. Another few states to watch. Virginia. That governor's unpredictable. As someone, I don't live too far away from Virginia, but I can tell you right now, if you even read into some of the stuff they do in Virginia, it's unpredictable, in my opinion. So that's why I put him on the list. Minnesota. That's just public perception why I put Minnesota in there. Grant, the two teams I play in that state play in the biggest city. Because if you ever been in Minnesota, it's just Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then just a bunch of open fields. And that state is a weird state. That is public perception right there. I like Minnesota. I have family in Minnesota. But public perception, that is a weird state. And it could be, and who knows what you're going to get from Minnesota. It's known to be a weird state. And I personally, I don't think it's a weird state, but and I actually like Minnesota. When I've been there a few times, I like it there. But public perception, weird state. Now, here's something I was thinking of. The Pac-12 might get screwed over. They already have the bad TV deal, and they already have the like not a lot of good teams. With Pac-12, they have a big matchup against the SEC. Probably, I would say either a top three team probably going into the season for the Pac-12, at least in that conference, in USC against Alabama and Arlington. Breaking news: Alabama and TCU might be meeting in Arlington, because TCU has a matchup against Cal, and with the uncertainty with the state of California, they might go ahead, cancel the Cal game, cancel the USC game, and then they'll go ahead and play each other, TCU and Alabama. Those are two states right there that I'm pretty confident will be having football at the full 12 games. So here's the issue with the Pac-12. and the Mountain West as well is thrown into this. A, they're on the West Coast. B, those governors, Washington State, Oregon, and California, are not. I don't think they're going to be, oh, sure, you can play football. I think they're going to try every little thing not to have football in California, Oregon, or Washington State, especially Washington State. Um, and no offense if you're from Washington State, if you like the governor, um, I think he's the worst governor in the country. I think the guy, just he just pisses me off. Just looking at him pisses me off. But um, and I do think if you talk to the California governor, Gavin Newsom, I do think you could maybe get something out of him. I know he's a sports fan. He was in that tribute video to Bruce Bochy during retirement. I know he's a sports fan, at least a baseball fan. But I mean, I wrote down every non-conference game that the Pac-12 is playing against a team in the East Coast. Arizona versus Texas Tech. Now, Arizona came out saying we could play sports starting Saturday. So I do think that game will happen. TCU versus California, as I said, I just said my little spiel about that. That game's uncertain. Colorado versus Texas A&M. I don't know what we're going to get out of Colorado. Colorado, if you've ever been there, and I'm using a lot of geographical stuff. Colorado is basically Fort Collins, Denver, Colorado Springs, fields, mountains. That's what it is basically. And I do think they will be playing football, Colorado. North Dakota State versus Oregon, Ohio State versus Oregon. I do think that Ohio State-Oregon game is going to be played because I think the university is going to tell the officials from the Oregon State officials, basically, government officials, that game they will lose so much money not playing that game. But North Dakota State versus Oregon, I don't know if that one's going to happen. And people are hyped for that one, too. That's one that people are hyped for. Oregon State versus Oklahoma State. No, we'll be playing games in Oklahoma State. All right, because Oklahoma, as I said, it's a little Tulsa over here. Oklahoma City, bunch of fields. Stanford, they have a road game against Notre Dame. That's kind of close to Chicago, even though it's in Indiana. I mean, they'll probably end up playing that game. I do think the Pac-12 will have football, but I do think there's going to be some schedule changes. And then William and Mary versus Stanford. William and Mary is a school from Williamsburg, Virginia. Let's see if they can make the trip across the country for that one. USC, they get Notre Dame at home. That game, that's the game I'm interested to see if they're going to change. USC and Alabama, I hope that doesn't get changed because that will be a top 25 matchup, even though the more I read into it, the more it probably will. There's just so much uncertainty in California right now. And by the way, just a little quick note. I don't think you should be making decisions on this for September, October, November on this. If you want to make a decision through June, fine. But I don't think you should be making decisions 90 days out. But I do hope they play that USC-Alabama game. Notre Dame versus USC. But that game's going to be interesting to see where that's played at. Michigan versus Washington. Would they flip that game, have Washington versus Michigan in the big house? Because that game, this is kind of a big game for both teams, especially Michigan, and Washington will make a lot of money off it. And then Houston versus Washington State. That one, that might be that might be canceled and switch around. Houston's a team. They're from Texas. They already played their one game in Texas last year. That might get switched around. So you're looking at possibly a few games switched around. Now, my opinion, what's going to happen, I do think these teams are going to get switched around. And I think the way they're going to get switched around is this. You're going to have all the conferences besides the Pac-12, the Mountain West, BYU, and New Mexico State. Those teams can all play each other for the most part. You look at the Mountain West. They could possibly change their schedules around those Mountain West schools to play Pac-12 schools. And BYU, they have 6 games against teams not in the Mountain West and Pac-12. They could change all of those games. They could cancel those 6 games, turn around, and just play the Pac-12 as well. And some schools that might have to cancel a Power 5 versus Power 5. Pac-12 has a rule. You got to play at least one out conference game that is considered a Power 5 school, and they do consider BYU a Power 5 school. That will certify that need. And then you use New Mexico State because they're independent, and they could possibly play some teams. Maybe like, for example, they could play. They could maybe do. I don't know that they could fill the Stanford spot, or not Stanford. They could fill. They could fill the William and Mary spot. So it's going to be interesting to see. I do think we'll see some schedule changes. As I said, NFL will start on time, but game sites could be changed, possibly specifically the LA teams and the Niners, the Seahawks, possibly going to Arizona. They could play at the colleges in Tucson, Arizona, and then I forget where Arizona State is, but it's in the Phoenix area. I mean, they have 3 football fields in that general 130-mile radius. I drove through that area, so I know how big of an area approximately that is. Florida's one. They have Florida State Stadium. They have Miami Stadium, even though that's a Dolphins stadium. But they could use that. They could also use the stadium in Jacksonville, the stadium in Tampa, and they could possibly use Central Florida Stadium in Orlando, FAU's, FIU's, and I'm trying to think who else they could possibly use. I think that's it. Alabama, they could use. There's 3 stadiums in Alabama. There's several stadiums in Georgia. Mississippi, there's 2 stadiums. Actually, 3 stadiums. Southern Miss as well. Louisiana, I'm not going to put Louisiana in there because they had a big outbreak, but I do think they will be playing football in the fall, Louisiana. I know that governor and Coach O have a very close relationship, and I'm sure that he wants to play football in the fall, that governor. Texas, they have a bunch of stadiums in Texas, so that could be a possibility. But overall, it's interesting. But at the end of the day, they will be playing college football because universities will go under if they don't, and they will be playing NFL because there's too much money to lose. This is all about money. It's not about it's just not about. I mean, granted, they do care about the player's safety. I know the SEC commissioner went on, I think the Feinbaum show yesterday, 2 days ago, and he said player safety comes first. Listen, he might at least care about the player safety, but trust me, that does not come first. Money comes first, and for those guys, I mean, and the people making these decisions, they're not there by accident. Okay, they're there because they're alphas, and trust me, alphas play by the money, and betas, they play. Like, if we care about player safety, I mean, if the football season got canceled because of player safety, the decision will be made by a bunch of betas. It's not going to get canceled because the decision is made by alphas who only care about money. I'm just telling you the cold hard truth about it. I mean, as I said at the beginning, I'm not here to offend anybody. This is not a sports video. This is not a political video. This video is just the cold hard truth. There's going to be a football season because money. That's primarily the only reason. these governors can run around in fantasy land and say, "Oh, we don't want football. We don't want football." They'll find a way to have it. These colleges, do they want their universities to go under? Even if there's no fans, you realize how much money's made in the TV contracts for the universities. Granted, the Pac-12 contract is a terrible TV contract, but don't tell me player safety is number one if you're a Power Five commissioner, because we all know it's all about the money. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out. I do, as I said, I do think some of these states will have 100% fans in the stands, because if you look at their outlook, they're going to be stage three. Stage three, I think, for most states is where you can have like the big, like you can have fans starting to come in the stands and stuff. Maybe after stage three, that's 6 weeks at most. That puts us in mid-July, so I'm not happy that California went to the. They went too quick. They went too quick to the gun. They jumped the gun way too quick, in my opinion. I think they're going to regret the decision they made, personally. But I understand that they care about people's safety. But they will be playing football at USC, UCLA, Fresno State, San Diego State, San Jose State, Cal, Stanford. They will be playing football at all those schools because it's all about the money. And trust me, those schools need the money, especially the group of five schools. But just want to hop on here to say my 2 cents about the whole situation. I do think there will be football. I do think college football will play the 12-game season. It'll be considered a normal season, even though it won't be. And we'll see what happens. This whole thing has changed the world. It really has. But hopefully there's football. Hopefully I'm right about this. But the main thing I want you to get out of this video is money talks, and they only care about money. And there will be football because of that one reason only. Now, comment down below. Tell me what you think. I always like hearing from y'all. Hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching the video. Big D the Beast signing off. Go Terps.